This is Stephen Tobolowsky, and I am the next guest on Screen and Beyond.
On Screen and Beyond, an inside look into the entertainment world featuring interviews with people from the movie, TV, and music industry. And now, here's the host of On Screen and Beyond, Brian Zemrak.
We are off on another edition of On Screen and Beyond as we take a look into the world of entertainment with our guest, Stephen Tobolowsky. I'm your host, Brian Zemrak, and this is the show that brings you a celebrity guest each week from the movie, TV, or music industry. Let me repeat that. My name is Brian, not Ryan, as AI from the podcast platform that we use generates these chapter previews and that they create for the show. And it calls me Ryan. So I don't know. I don't know how that all works. And I have nothing to do with it. They just generate this thing. Anyways, this week's show is never before released video version of the interview that I did with Stephen Tobolowsky last year. And I get many emails from viewers on Spotify video platform and also my YouTube viewers asking for past episodes in a video format. So I happen to have videoed the interview with Stephen, and I enhanced the video, the audio, and here it is. If you would like to email me with a suggestion, request, or whatever, you can do so at feedback@onscreenandbeyond.com. Love hearing from you. Enjoy those emails that you send me as we get those, and thank you so much for doing that. And as I said, Stephen Tobolowsky is our guest, and you have seen him on the Goldbergs as Principal Ball, on Groundhog Day, Wild Hogs, Spaceballs, and so much more. He's an amazing storyteller and shares lots of stories with us. It's Stephen Tobolowsky, next, right here on Screen and Beyond. Our guest today on Screen and Beyond is an actor who we have seen in so many TV shows and movies, including Spaceballs, Thelma and Louise, Mississippi Burning, Basic Instinct, and Groundhog's Day, Deadwood, Glee, Californication, One Day at a Time, Archer, The Goldbergs, and that's just the beginning of it. It's Stephen Tobolowsky. Stephen, welcome to On Screen and Beyond.
It's very good to be here.
Now, Stephen, looking over the shows and the movies that I mentioned, that is just the tip of the iceberg of all the things that you've done. Your credits are incredible.
I know, I'm a lucky man. It's also called contagion. It's as an actor, a very important thing is casting directors. And as you meet a casting director and you happen to pull through on a job, let's just say they had trouble casting. They've gone through several people, and then they pull you in and you do okay, and the director congratulates them. That casting director is likely to call your name next time. And so as you begin to work your way in this business and you know more and more casting directors and you have some successes under your belt, you have people that call you up and say, hey, can you come in tomorrow and do this job? So you end up getting a lot of things on your resume.
Yeah. And you know something? I was looking over your credits and I noticed two things pop up quite often. You're a doctor or you're a principal. I mean, really, there's a lot of doctors and principals in your credits.
Yes. For young actors out there, it all depends on your state of baldness. If you're young men, if you're young women, it depends a lot on, if you're going to play the young drug addict girl or the girl who's a troublemaker in high school. It depends how early you start. But what happens early in my career, if you take a look, I played police, FBI guys, like mafioso crime guys, because I was tall. I'm like 6'3", And back then, it didn't matter that I had kind of a sprinkling, I looked like a guy who could rough somebody up. Now, I look like cannon fodder. And now I look like the guy who would be roughed up. So over time, I got the inkling of this, and I think I was in my 50s, and I got a role that was only called Grandpa. And I was going, what, wait, whoa. When did this happen? And I mean, Grandpa didn't even have a name. You know, I always have a thing for young actors and any actors out there. You got to have a part that has a name, and it has to have a first and a last name, because the name you are given is how much thought the writer gave in writing you into the script. Mm-hmm. So if you are Grandpa, you are way down on that totem pole of the writer having given any thought to your character at all. So, but also I felt, you know, I was young, I was vibrant, I was traveling the world, and now I'm Grandpa. It was terrifying. Now I'm I'm almost 72, I think. And I'm beyond the Grandpa roles. So now, in fact, they're retiring me from jobs, you know, so I'm not going to be the principal at Goldbergs. Of course, they retired the Goldbergs, but you know, I'm not the principal anymore because I'm too damn old to be the principal at the Goldbergs. So, you know, just like life, you just kind of work your way into it, and then you work your way out of it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so that's why I'm playing a lot of doctors and, gosh, what am I playing now? Now I'm just playing crazy neighbors and things like that. That's what I'm down to.
That's the evolution of acting, right?
You end up the crazy neighbor, but at least I have a name.
Right. Now, well, the Goldbergs ended. Did you know if you were going to pop up in any of the final episodes, or were you subject to the cutting room floor or anything like that? How did that work?
Well, I don't know which episode I popped up on, but I did pop up on an episode this year. I only did one this year. I ended up doing like 7 or 8 or 9 last year. Mm-hmm. You know, they just, with Goldbergs, they just kind of call your number as to, again, I'm one of those secondary characters. So if it takes place at the school, mm-hmm. there's a good chance I'll be in the show. But if they're not at the school, if they're at home and they're with babies and they're with all sorts of things like that, you're not going to call my number. So, but it was a wonderful, wonderful show to work on. Not just, and when people think of wonderful shows to work on, a lot of people who aren't in the business think like, well, was it funny? Was it a success? Yes, it was funny. It was a success. Then other people think, well, was it the cast? Yes, the cast was spectacular. But as an actor, you work on a lot of different shows. And one of the things that makes a show really great are the producers and the crew. Mm-hmm. And on the Goldbergs, we had wonderful producers, wonderful directors, and the crew was genius. And just to give an example of crew. So I was doing a Goldbergs last year, and it says I'm leaving the school carrying my briefcase. Well, I have never carried a briefcase in the 9 years or whatever I did the show. It didn't even cross my mind because I'm always at my desk right. So I figured, okay, they're going to give me a briefcase. No, not on the Goldbergs. So the prop guy comes up to me and says, so Stephen, I see this note in the script here that you're going to be taking a briefcase. Now, the way I look at it is you always aspired to be at great universities, to teach at great universities, maybe Harvard, maybe Yale, maybe even Oxford in England was your dream when you first went to become a teacher. So I thought maybe what I would do is I would make your briefcase a briefcase that you bought at a store that's English, an English briefcase, maybe from the 1940s, to have a feeling of this is something that was one of your dreams. And I'm like, this guy is a genius. You know, when the prop guy thinks so much about the history of your prop and your pen, this is the pen they gave you when you were going to retire, but you didn't retire. So you've kept this, you know, the backstory of This is what makes people on cruise, and costumers too. Brilliant costumers come up with whole ideas, but behind your clothes, which is amazing.
So, everyone thinks of the writer, director, and of course the good acting, and I'm not taking anything away from that, but they think that that's what makes the character. But what you're saying is that it's not just them, the prop people and everyone else involved in that character is giving you some kind of feedback and a backstory.
Yeah, the team, the whole team, and don't leave out hair and makeup.
Right.
Again on the Goldbergs, brilliant people in hair and makeup. And I got it. And there are other shows that just jump out at me that were magnificent, like Silicon Valley. We had amazing writers and producers on that show, and the crew was amazing, and the hair and makeup people were amazing. And so you go on those sets and you feel like you're in good hands. And then, there could be other shows you go on that I just say, I'm going to bring something from home. Really? I'll just bring something from home that I think will work a little better than this.
Yeah. Huh? So what was the experience like on One Day at a Time? Was that similar to the experience on Goldbergs? I mean, that was an amazing show.
An amazing show. Now, here's an example of the tragedy leading to the comedy. So before One Day at a Time, I was, a couple of years before that, I was signed on to be a regular on the Mindy Project.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think I did 7 shows and they wrote me off of the show. And I had like a 7-year contract. And it was one of those things for an actor, it's absolutely heartbreaking. And you think like, what happened? Why is it terrible? And now that the Mindy Project is on Netflix, I had people coming up to me all the time going, love you on the Mindy Project. I said, well, you better love me quickly because I'm going to vanish from the show. And, it was one of those things it kills your heart and it hurts, all that stuff. And then you move on. You realize in show business, the most something hurts is about 6 weeks. And so when you realize that, you go like, oh, well, that's not too bad. It's kind of like a bad cold or sore throat, before you feel good again. And okay, I'll be fine. But had I done the Mindy Project, I would not have been available for the TV experience of my life, which was One Day at a Time. And One Day at a Time, with Mike Royce and Gloria Calderon-Kellett were our writer-producers, brilliant. They're both just so amazing. And a chance to work with Norman Lear.
Yeah, that's
what an
quite a
so you are talking there about extraordinary producers and extraordinary writers, and then you got that cast. You got that cast, and you go on stage. I didn't know Justina Machado at the time. I had not seen her in anything, and then I'm there, and I'm watching her in the first show, and I talked to my wife that night. I says, I think I may have seen one of the greatest actresses I've ever seen in my life. And certainly one of the greatest actresses I've seen in a sitcom. And then I get to be romantic with Rita Moreno.
Yeah.
And then there's Todd Grinnell and Isabella Gomez. And I mean, those kids were absolutely fantastic. I mean, it was just a great show.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Demond Wilson. You remember me as Lamont from Sanford and Son. And I want you to listen to a very, very important broadcast, On Screen and Beyond, with Brian. He is the man.
Was there anything behind the scenes that we never saw that was unusual, funny, whatever, that you can let us in on?
Yeah. Now, we did not discuss anything beforehand, so this is all just things that I'm bringing off the top of my head. For the final show of One Day at a Time on season 2, I believe it was. So that's the show, if you know the series, where Rita is in a coma. The entire show. And all of us each one of the cast members comes in and talks to her while she's asleep. And hoping for, from our own point of view, trying to hope that some sound will get through and she won't be gone from us. And it's a very amazing show. When we did it in front of the live audience, I have never done a comedy before where when you shoot a show, it's like 4 hours. You figure,
right.
From let's say 8 or 7, they usually start earlier. Let's say they get the audience in about 4:30, and you start the show about 5:30, and you finish, like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, if you're lucky. Not one laugh, or maybe a laugh here or there, but it was a kind of silence in that audience where there's, 200-300 people, live audience, that's kind of holy. Nobody could breathe during the show. You don't get that in a sitcom. So here's the moment, not just the shooting of that show, but we had a limited time to put that show together, which meant we had to work over the Jewish high holy days. And I think it was Rosh Hashanah. I don't remember if it was Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur, but it was one of the Jewish high holy days. Big deal. And so Gloria and Mike said, Stephen, we need an extra day to rehearse this show. And we need to rehearse on Monday, we need to rehearse this day. Will you be available? And I've done shows on Broadway, and I know you do shows. If you're Jewish, you do it on the Shabbat, and you do it on Jewish holidays, and you do 2 shows on Saturday, the day of rest, if you're on Broadway. So, I said, yes, I will work on this day that you're not supposed to work. Mm-hmm. So we start rehearsing alone in the studio, this very important show. And in walks Norman Lear, and he comes and he sits down on the stage with me. And he starts talking to me about his Jewish upbringing. And together, the two of us sat there while the rehearsal is going on a few feet away from us. And we shared stories from our childhood, talking about growing up Jewish, where we were, when we were. And when I was a little kid, watching television in Oak Cliff, Texas, which is about 20 miles outside of downtown Dallas, the window to our world at that time was a Norman Lear show. It was the show that everybody, whether it was On the Family or we would sit around the TV and watch the Norman Lear show, and that's how we knew what the world was really like, because it wasn't what it was like growing up in Oak Cliff, which was a white flight area. There were no Black people that lived in our neighborhood, none at all. Maybe I knew 3 growing up in my life, but they were like maids and, it was, but I didn't know. It was kind of like a normal world for me.
Yeah.
But watching a Norman Lear show, you got a glimpse of what the world was really like, in a funny way, and in a loving way, and in a judgmental sort of way of saying, you look at Archie Bunker and you go like, you want to be like that? You want to be like Edith? What do you want to be? And you want to be like Meathead, or you want to be like Gloria? What do you want to be when you grow up?
Right.
And there was a joy in his comedy that, sitting now on this stage, decades later, playing, Dr. Berkowitz, with Norman Lear, and both of us exchanging stories of our upbringing, was as holy an experience as I could have had on the high holy days, and if I had been sitting in synagogue doing these prayers again.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible.
But it was a great show, and I will always treasure my memory of that.
Yeah, and there were so many different shows that we could go through, but one that I particularly enjoyed seeing you on, well, actually, we never really saw you on the show, but we heard you on Archer.
Amazing. And this was something that was just kind of hilarious. I guess the Archer story. This is a crazy story.
Archer's crazy, so it's a crazy
So we're
show.
back in the one day at a time era.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm on vacation in Helsinki, Finland, with my wife, and we're visiting some actors we know there, and they want Anne, who is a director, to help them with their play in Helsinki, Finland. And me, I'm just going there to drink beer. That's all I'm doing. I have no part of this at all. I'm just enjoying Helsinki, where my wife and I had been 33 years before, just to visit, to go to a theater festival there. So it was like old home week for us, going to Helsinki again. And I get this message from Mike Royce, One Day at a Time producer and writer, saying, can you be in Austin, Texas at this time? We're going to do a presentation, a kind of an interview thing of One Day at a Time for the press. And we want to have the cast there. Where are you at now? Can you be in Austin? And I said, well, Mike, I'm in Helsinki, Finland. But when is the day? And I will be there for this interview, for this kind of media thing for One Day at a Time. So there is a nonstop flight from Helsinki, Finland to Austin, Texas.
Wow.
Believe it or not, it's a long flight. It's a very long flight, and you watch several James Bond movies on the way. And not the old ones with Sean Connery, but you watch these 2.5-hour James Bond movies one after another, and you're going like, yeah, and you eat lutefisk, and they fly you to Austin, Texas. So I land. I'm kind of like this, and I get a message from Mike Royce. We're over at this hotel. If you could meet me here, and then maybe we'll go out to dinner and we'll talk about what we're going to do. So I go to this hotel where I'm going to meet Mike. And he said, just go over to the restaurant. I'll be there shortly. It's right across the street. It's a Mexican restaurant right across the street. I know you're asking, wait a minute, this was about Archer. So, so I start walking across the street from the hotel to the Mexican restaurant where we're going to have dinner. Halfway across the street, one of the media people happened to be the writer, executive producer of Archer.
Oh, geez.
And in the middle of the street, he goes, wait a minute, Stephen Tobolowsky. Stephen, we're writing a part for Archer that we think you'd be right for. Would you like to do it? And I go, yeah, sure. And now we're walking across the street. And then he says, and that's great. That's great. So when will you be back in Los Angeles? And we'll send you the script and we could start recording. I said, well, I'll be back in Los Angeles in like a week. Great. And then we're still walking across the street. We have not crossed the street yet. We're mid-street, and he goes, and I have a favor to ask you. I've written kind of a script treatment for the show One Day at a Time that you're in. Is there any way maybe you could introduce me to someone that is involved with One Day at a Time? And at that time, Mike Royce starts crossing the street again. And I go, well, as a matter of fact, here's our executive producer. And in the middle of the street in Austin, Texas, this meeting occurred. And that's how I ended up on the show Archer. And that's how I hope he ended up connecting with Mike Royce. And then Mike and I went and had Mexican food.
Wow.
Only in Hollywood,
That's
not
right.
Hollywood, in Helsinki, in Austin, in whatever.
Hi, I'm Pamela Sue Martin, and I'm on Screen and Beyond.
Wow. Did you find a lot of things like that happen, things you wouldn't expect?
Well, you have to, I guess you have to take a look at this. Show business, the ocean is very small, but very deep.
Mm-hmm.
So, I keep wondering how many people are really professionals in show business. I looked up the the hiring, the records of SAG, Screen Actors Guild, the professional guild. How many people are professional actors that are in the Screen Actors Guild? And the statistics SAG gives, they give two statistics. One is between 60 and 80,000 people are members of the union. Mm-hmm. So if you take a look at that, to be a professional screen, TV actor, whatever, 60 or 80,000 are in the union and pay dues, with an unemployment rate of 95%.
Jeez.
So how many people, you have this ocean of people that are connected, that are professionals in the union, and how many work? Small group. So whether you're in Helsinki or Austin or LA, and you see somebody that you've worked, so that's how you keep bumping into people in the rarest strength. Quick story. Maybe not, my stories aren't necessarily quick. So anyway, when I was in college and dreaming of being a professional actor, the actor that we all wanted to be was James Earl Jones. Mm-hmm. He was just on Broadway and did the film Great White Hope. And now he was doing Of Mice and Men on Broadway. He was going to do Of Mice and Men on Broadway. He was going to play Lenny. And they picked our school in Dallas, Texas, SMU, for James Earl Jones to rehearse the play. So there was a chance that we little students would have a chance of running into James Earl Jones in the hallways of our school. And we're going like, oh my God, if only I could see James Earl Jones. Well, we did see James Earl Jones. And nice. We were speechless. And then we saw him do Of Mice and Men as a kind of a run through on our stage at SMU in Dallas, Texas. Wow. But then later, when I was a grown man, I ended up working with James Earl Jones for real in Thailand, in a TV movie called Last Flight Out. And there was no place, we had no dressing rooms this one particular day. And so we were at some Thai Air Force base in the middle of the jungle. And there's a jet, and they put folding chairs under the jet so we would be out of the broiling sun. And James Earl Jones and I were sitting next to one another under the jet in Thailand, in the middle of the jungle in Thailand. And I talked to him about how great it was when he was at SMU, and I got to see him at SMU. But then later in my life, I'm doing the show Sneakers, and James Earl Jones and I are in the movie together again. And we're there again. And now he's playing the head of the CIA or something, and I am playing Werner Brandes. And I see James Earl Jones again. And I go, hey, James, it's so good to see you. I remember in Thailand. And then James Earl Jones and I got invited to George Lucas's birthday party up in Northern California. Mm-hmm. Not together, but separately. And we're there, but we happen to be staying at the same hotel. And so George Lucas had a kind of a bus to take people back from his party to the hotel. So on the hotel, the only seat that was available on the bus was next to James Earl Jones. So I'm sitting next to James Earl Jones, and I go, James, it's me, Stephen Tobolowsky. Says, I don't know if you remember, but, we worked together, on the movie in Thailand, and we were under the jet there. And then at SMU, and I go through the whole thing with him again, and he looks at me and his eyes go wide, and he looks at my bald head now, and he goes, God, I'm so old. You got to get that Darth Vader voice going. Yeah. I'm so old. So old. Please, I hope. Always a gracious guy, but still one of my idols.
Well, Stephen, if I don't ask you about this movie, I'm going to get a lot of nasty letters.
You got to go for it.
Groundhog Day. That movie has become, I don't know if you want to call it a cult classic or
I think it has to be a classic.
Oh,
I think it
yeah.
used to be a cult classic, but now it's a classic because it's clear that it's one of the best movies made, just in terms of movie making, successful comedy, successful romance. It's difficult to do a romance film that doesn't make you cringe.
Mm-hmm.
The directing is wonderful. The concept is great and profound. And, it's, I remember when I saw it opening night, I saw it and I went out to Harold Ramis and I said, I think I may have seen one of the few perfect movies I've ever seen. And a lot of it was, everything was perfect. Even the credits were perfect. A lot of times during that era of filmmaking, they would do outtakes for the credits,
Yep.
right? Which make me cringe. And it's basically just actors forgetting their lines and laughing. But Groundhog Day took itself seriously because, as we found out later, Harold Ramis was a practicing Buddhist. And he said the real story, because people are asking, well, how long is Bill Murray trapped in time? And I asked Harold Ramis that at a charity event. He says, well, Stephen, I'm a practicing Buddhist, and we believe it takes 10,000 years to perfect the human soul. And that's the real story of Groundhog Day, the perfection of the human soul. And I go, that's why the film is so good. Because the underlaying of the film isn't just about somebody trying to have sex with somebody else, which is usually or love or whatever, but it is beyond that. It is beyond a human life. It is the perfection of the human soul. And Bill is so good in it. Yeah. And Andy is terrific in it. I mean, it's a great cast.
Oh, yeah.
We had a war doing it, and it was a phenomenal experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Before we finish up, I have to ask you, you're a musician? I didn't know that. What do you play and what's your specialty?
I mainly play the piano and I mainly play classical music. This is a fun. They had a thing at Carnegie Hall. Alfred Brendel, who's one of my favorite classical pianists ever of all time, is doing a master class on the Beethoven sonatas. And I asked my wife if I could go and apply to take the master class with Alfred Brendel. And it was only for, I think it was something like they were going to accept 150 musicians from all over the world. And you had to do your resume of what symphonies what orchestras you played with and all this. And so on mine, I said, I'm not very good at the piano, but I love Alfred Brendel and I'm in movies. And so they accepted me. And I was there with all these great musicians sitting beside me at the master class. We did a week at Carnegie Hall, and then we finished by seeing a concert with Alfred Brendel. And then each one of us could go up one at a time and meet the great man. And so my turn, I go backstage at Carnegie Hall, and there's Alfred Brendel, and he looks at me and he goes, "Wait a minute, aren't you Ned?"
It sticks with you.
It sticks with you. It sticks with you. So, that was a great experience. So I play the piano, and I don't play it well, but I play it every day. And I think it's the kind of thing, growing up in Dallas, if I had started earlier and if I had had stricter teaching and whatever, didn't want to play baseball so much, maybe I could have been a low-level pianist, but I'm not that good. But I play Beethoven and Chopin and Brahms, and I play all that stuff like all the time, every day, but I'm no good. So don't expect I'm going to show up anywhere playing anything.
Okay.
My wife loves it, though. She says, "Oh, thank God, please. I'm going to run the Eufy again through the house. Could you do that Beethoven sonata?" Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And you also have a podcast, correct?
Well, I think more than what we did is, I think we have 99 episodes. And when we started doing the podcast, it's called the Tobolowsky Files.
Yep.
And we were going to do just a few stories, but it ended up on NPR radio. and PRI radio all over the country and then all over the world. And so the Tobolowsky files are true stories that I tell from my life, kind of like I've been telling today, about life, love, and show. There are show business stories there, but there is the story of Alfred Brindell in there and a few Groundhog Day stories. But mainly, I broke my neck in 2008, and the doctor said I had a fatal injury, which I obviously didn't. So in my recovery, I started writing these stories for my kids to say, this is who your father was in case I had really died on the mountain. And then I ended up recording these stories with David Chen in Seattle. Brilliant, brilliant guy. And he's the one who got them on the internet. And to this day, my kids still have not listened to it, nor have they read the books of stories I did, which is the famous, the Dangerous Animals Club and My Adventures with God, which are Simon & Schuster, which are also true stories from my life.
Yeah. Stephen, I want to finish up with one final question. What's your favorite TV shows now and of the past? And what's your favorite movies now and of the past? What do you enjoy?
Oh, gosh. Oh, man. They're all old. Because I don't know.
That's all right. That's what people want to hear.
I love Queen's Gambit. That's
Good.
new
Yeah.
TV show. That's fabulous. You know, that's old school. In terms of movies, I love the Bourne movies, the 3 Bourne movies. I see those movies over and over and over and over again. So that's a sign that I must love them, or I love mass murder. I don't know which, but I love those films. In terms of, you know, right now in terms of TV, I'm babysitting my grandbabies now. So I have grandbaby hours, in that I usually go to bed at 8 o'clock watching the British baking show, because that
yes.
show will put me to sleep like that.
My wife watches that all the time.
And now we're going to do Caramel Week. And I'm out like a light. So, you know, but in terms of movies, I like a lot of the great old movies, Alan Parker films, if you know, he's Harold Ramis films. You look for the great Ridley Scott, you look for the great directors and watch their films, and you'll always get something from them.
Yeah. Stephen, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to share with us. It's an honor to have you on the show, and I wish you the best with all your future projects.
Well, thank you very much. It was a lot of fun.
That's it. Stephen Tobolowsky right here on Screen and Beyond. Thank you so much for joining us, and hope you enjoyed that interview with Stephen. Stephen's a great guy, a lot of fun to talk to. He's just such a good storyteller. You know, it's hearing all those things, and he could just go on, and wish we had more time to do so. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed that, and we will have some more coming your way and in the near future. So as far as old episodes that were never released in video, and they will be coming your way. Also have new guests, of course, coming our way. And if you have a suggestion, email it to me at feedback@onscreenandbeyond.com. Turn around and share the posts when I post them up so people can see it, and we get more people on the show because people are watching and listening. And I thank you so much for doing that. That's it. That's a wrap for this episode of On Screen and Beyond. So until next time, when we once again take you on screen and beyond, I'm Brian Zemrak. Take care.